What's going on, guys? Saga Plays here, coming back at you with another MTG Innistrad Crimson Vow spoiler. Today we'll be looking at green, and as you can tell by all the tabs that have popped up, I already pulled up all the mythics and all the rares that have been released so far. And we'll be doing it like usual, where I will talk, read what the card is, and look up its current price pre-sale wise. And then I am using Mythic Spoilers as my site that I use to get all my Magic spoilers for each new set that comes out. And then also, I do apologize for my voice. I am kind of sick from drastic climate change that happened. Like, it was hot one day, cold the next, that type of thing. So, please excuse me. I'm kind of stuffy, congested, that type of thing. So, let's begin with Ava Bruck Caretaker. A four green creature human werewolf 4/4 hexproof, and hexproof at the beginning of combat on your turn, put two +1/+1 counters on another target creature you control, daybound, nightbound. That's what all the werewolves have. Um, and on the flip side, hexproof, other permanents you control have hexproof. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put two +1/+1 counters on each target creature you control. So really, when Ava Bruck Caretaker flips over, the additional side, other than getting that Howl Henge Huntmaster becomes a 6/6, is that your other permanents get hexproof. So that is an upside. So everything on your board pretty much has hexproof, which is better than I'm forgetting the name, but it was a legendary creature from Dominaria where other permanents you control have hexproof. She had a green, her identity was white for her CMC cost, and then green for her to trigger her ability to add +1/+1 counters. But yeah, she, Averbrook Caretaker is far stronger in the sense that, I mean, you do have to flip it over to her just werewolf creature side, but that is easily doable. You just don't cast any spells for a turn for on your turn. You for a turn, so all your creatures do all your werewolves would flip over, that type of thing. So and if it's already night on your board, it comes in on the night side. But yeah, really solid creature to have, even though it is a 6 CMC spell. In green, fairly, that is easy. You're able to get to that point of mana very easily with green because green is all about ramp. Um, she's 1587, not a bad price point. I won't be surprised if it goes higher or if it like stays around this price point, mainly because like you would want her to flip over so everything you have does have hexproof, making it harder for your opponent to remove them unless they do a board wipe, but they can't specifically target one of your creatures once everything has hexproof. So solid choice for a deck. I would surely add her to my mutate deck when I can. Next card is Cemetery Prowler. Is a one green creature wolf 3/4 with vigilance, and when Cemetery Prowler enters the battlefield or attacks, exile a card from a graveyard. Spells you cast cost one less to cast for each card type they share with cards exiled with Cemetery Prowler. Alright, so right off the bat, you can already make your when a Cemetery Prowler attacks or ETBs in general, it pretty much you're able to make your spells cheaper for each card type that is exiled with it. So that is very useful to have. It is one pretty much 3 CMC to cast, so and it being in green, you could get that out fairly quickly. But it is a power 3 toughness 4, so it can die late game wise, but let's see where the wolf. Wow, yeah. 1237, and then 2512. Fairly high given that it is, I mean, it is a very early play, seems creature, so I mean, it is useful with trying to make sure your graveyard, you empty your graveyard so your opponent doesn't mess with it, and you're able to make your spells that cost more expensive that you draw into cheaper by the time you get to them. So a fairly good choice to add. Next one is Cultivator Colossus, a four green, 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 right? Four green, green, green creature, plant, beast, star slash star. All right. It has trample, and then Cultivator Colossus's power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. So you would pretty much ramp heavy in order to get them out, because like casting this like just purely based off lands, that is a 7/7 right there. So, and then when it enters the battlefield, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tap. If you do, draw a card and repeat this process. All right. So pretty much that ability, you would. This is obviously like a lands matters deck, so like one of your landfall decks where you would want multiple trigger like land drops. So I mean, you pretty much are able to you pretty much would, I guess, like when you put a land down you draw a card, and then if you can put another land down you draw another, that type of thing. So you're able to uh filter your deck in order to remove any and all lands. I mean, even if they come in tapped you still get access to them next turn. So you, by the time like you can't put a land down, if you're able to get a couple more lands down, that is very useful during the next turn or even after. Mainly because like you got excess mana, which you can use to cast some instances or sorceries if you can, that type of thing. But let's see where price it lies with the price. Ooh. All right, 30.29, not bad. Honestly, very high there. Very useful, mainly because you can each time you when it enters, you put and you're able to put a land down, you get to draw a card, which is very useful, and you're able to repeat the process until you can't put a land down. So I won't deny the price; it is fairly high. Uh, Price between its extended and its normal, basically $2-3. So don't, well, not $2-3, literally 207 if my math is right. Yeah, $2.07 is the difference, but who cares? It is fairly good, so I won't deny the price with that. All right, that's the last of our mythics. So the rest are rares. First one will be Howling Moon, a 2 green enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target wolf or werewolf you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. All right, so right off the bat, pretty much you're able to buff up your werewolf or werewolf at the beginning of combat with a game +2/+2, which could come in handy when it comes to your opponent blocking, and then whenever your opponent is limiting the amount of spells they cast, because pretty much if they cast more I can spell, they they pretty much are giving you a 2/2 wolf, green wolf. So I mean that they either cast one spell per turn, or they allow you to cat they allow you to get the wolf so you can cast a second spell, and then any other spell after that it does not trigger, because this is only focusing on the second spell with as it's specifically stated. So it does have that drawback, but let's see where it lies. $5 basically. Not surprising, mainly because like I mean it does hinder your opponent, but like if they are willing to risk the fact that after casting their second spell, you don't get a wolf anymore, that type of thing. So they will risk it giving you a wolf to cast an even greater spell if they can. So that I can understand why the price point it is below $10. That type. So I won't refute that. Splendid Reclamation. Uh, 3 green sorcery. Return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. Alright, this spell I'll flat out say goes into a lands matters deck. I mean, even though they come in tapped, it is still in if you have but if you have multiple landfall triggers or the Colossus from earlier, oop, sorry, please ignore that. But the Cultivator Colossus here, it is very useful mainly because it buffs this up, but it also triggers all a bunch of your landfalls, so you'll be able to you're able to what's the word? Sorry. You're able to get a good use out of them, so I won't be surprised. And it is 4 CMC, so it is fairly cheap, I would say. But probably it's because like since they all enter tap, you won't be able to use them till your next turn. So, but it is good if your opponent is milling you and you're not able to get land dropped. But all right, so it is a reprint from Eldritch Moon. So makes sense. Eldritch Moon, I believe, was from pretty much another Innistrad deck, an older one. But yeah, I mean, price wise, 554. Low, lower than 10, but not surprising because it comes into play whenever if you have so much of your land in your graveyard. If you don't, then it just takes up a spot in your deck. So I can understand why it's very low in price. Hive Heart Shaman, 3 green creature human shaman, 3/5. Whenever Hiveheart Shaman attacks, you may search your library for a basic land card that does not share a land type with any land you control. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. For 5 and a green, create a 1/1 green insect creature token, put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. Activate only as a sorcery. Alright, so right off the bat, when it attacks, you're able to get at least like if you're running a 5 color deck, this creature will be, I guess, would be somewhat useful, mainly because like each time it attacks, you're able to get one of your one either like one white, one plains, forest, swamp, island, or mountain, and you get it onto the battlefield. So you're able to get one of those 5, and then it just reduces each time until you have one of each basic land type. At that point, he may not be useful to you. He may just be used as a chump blocker. And then you get a green insect token, and then it gets X +1/+1. So the most it can get is 5. Lowest is 1, depending on if your deck even runs basic lands, because I know some commander decks don't run a basic land, but they will run like land types such as one of the like Hallowed Fountain is a plains and an island has the plains and islands, but it's not basic land, so it's that type of thing. But this card is mainly used for basic lands, so depending on where I won't be surprised if it lies below $10, but around all right, I've heard Shaman is not in yet, so it must have been recently spoiled within the last couple of hours, I believe. Not too sure, but if it's not in, he price may still be determined on that, or no store has him. That type of it may be one of those two, but I want to say he would range below $10, maybe around $5 or $4 maybe. Glorious Sunrise, 3 green enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose one. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample until end of turn. Target land gains tap it, add green, green, green until end of turn. Draw a card if you control a creature with power 3 or greater, or you gain 3 life. So right off the bat, it's it comes in useful. Like you could either pump up all your creatures by one and they all gain trample, or you can let one of your lands gain 3 mana and then you can use that during your second main phase or during combat with a three with another spell to help boost up your creatures, or you can draw a card if you control the power 3 or greater, which really should be easy, mainly because in green, as you ramp, you will be playing more for powerful creatures, toughness and power wise, or you can gain 3 life. So I mean, you get your option 4 options for this enchantment, but they all are fairly useful. It just depends on what you pick and when you pick it. So Glorious Sunrise, almost $10, pretty much 903 for its normal. Not surprising. I wouldn't be surprised if it's used in a lot of play, mainly because even though it costs 5 CMC, you do get your 4 choices out of it, so it can be fairly useful. All right. Next one is Ascendant Pack Leader for a green creature wolf 2/1. Ascendant Pack Leader enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it if you control a permanent with mana value 4 or greater. Whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, put a +1/+1 counter on Ascendant Pack Leader. Alright, so right off the bat, pretty much fairly cheap. If you play this turn 1, you would use it as like a chunk blocker, mainly because since it has toughness 1, you would use it to try and block one of your creatures of spells. It can die fairly easily, but I mean, since it's mana value 4 or greater, you don't necessarily have to make sure your creatures have. You don't necessarily have to make sure your creature is powerful in terms of power or toughness. It just has to be more expensive. So I mean, mana value 4 or greater, you'll be able to cast some of those spells if you're able to ramp enough quickly, or if you're able to play this later in the game, because then it comes in with the +1/+1 counter, and it just grows stronger each time you cast a 4/4, or not 4/4, each time you cast a mana value, pretty much a creature with 4 CMC or greater. So I mean, I won't be so. I don't know where this would lie, but let's see. 874 for its normal, and then literally basically $18 for its extender. Honestly, high, roughly right around, because I was thinking like middle between 5 and 10, so 8, like $7 to $8. So I mean, slightly higher than I thought, mainly because like sense what the sense in money, but I understand its price point looking at it, mainly because like you could either play it turn 1 as a chump blocker or play it late game and let it grow stronger each time. Alright, so fairly good card to have. Next one, Hamlet Vanguard. 2 green creature human warrior with and it's a 1/1 with Ward 2. Hamlet Vanguard enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it for each other non-token human you control. So pretty much right off the bat, even though it comes in as a 1/1, depending on if you have like non-human creatures, depending on or non-token humans. Wait, what did I say? Let me reread this. Uh, +1 counters on it for each other non-token human. All right. So as long as you don't have any humans on the battlefield, like if it's nighttime and all your werewolves have your human werewolves have flipped to just being werewolves, you can cast them, and then he gets 2 +1/+1 counters for each one. So if you only have one werewolf on the battlefield, it becomes a 3/3, 2, 5/5, and so on. So I mean, it will. You pretty much would want them on the battlefield when you know you have enough creatures that are non-humans. Or no, wait, sorry. Each other non-token. Okay, sorry, I misread this. So you pretty much would want to cast them when it's daytime and all your were and you only have human werewolves. So yes, okay, yeah, now that makes sense because he's a human warrior. So pretty much you would want human werewolves on the battlefield, and he when he enters, he includes himself, so right off the bat, he'll become a 3/3. But if you have more human creatures, like even if they're human werewolf, they still count as human because human is a part of their creature type. So they will be counted, and he will become more stronger. And the word two, I mean, like even though they would pay two just to make him the target of a spell or ability, it's depending on when he is put, depending on whether or not your opponent is willing to spend the 2 mana, because sometimes 2 mana can be very come in clutch when it comes to casting in a spell, especially like a it just returns to your hand type of thing from blue or like a shock from red. So it just depends on how whether or not he will be how he will how strong he'll come into play. Oop, oh wow. Oop, wow. Sorry. So pretty much little below $5. So not surprising, mainly because like since he's a 3 CMC spell, he will be pretty much and he's base power 1/1, and then when he enters, he becomes a 3/3 with ward 2, that type of thing, because his ability only triggers when he enters the battlefield, and depending on the board state, you may not want to play him now or prolong, and he's just like a very depends on the board state type of card, like some other spells, some other creatures. Sorry, I had to drink some water. Talking a lot in these videos. Howlpack Howlpack Piper is a 3 green creature human werewolf 2/2. This spell can't be countered, so pretty much like it will enter the battlefield no matter what. And then for 1 green, tap it. You may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. If it's a wolf or a werewolf, untap Howlpack Piper, activate only as a sorcery. Alright, so and then it has daybound, nightbound, and then when it flips, when this creature enters the battlefield or transforms into Wildsong Howler, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Alright, so either way, it doesn't matter what if it's day or night, mainly because you will get use out of Wildsong Howler or Howlpack Piper. Howlpack Piper will let you literally paying 2 mana and tapping it to put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. It doesn't even come tapped. It will come onto the battlefield untapped unless stated otherwise. But it is very useful, mainly because you can you you could put like a 10 CMC spell or a super expensive creature onto the battlefield for just 2 mana because you can't trigger the ability on the turn it is summoned mainly because of summoning sickness. So you do have to wait a turn. Hopefully that your opponent does not kill her. So waiting a turn and then you can trigger it, getting down a super powerful creature that comes in with summoning sickness, obviously, but it is fairly useful mainly because you can get a very powerful creature. You just can't deny that part. And then Wildsong Howler, when it becomes when it enters the battlefield as Wildsong Howler or become transforms into Howler, sorry, it you pretty much get to look at your top six cards and pick a card, pick a creature from among them, add it to your hand, and then the rest go onto the bottom in a random order. So you're able to look at your top six and see whether or not you're able to pick a creature from among them that you like, need, or just just see if there's anything you can use from the top, and if you can't, you can just shuffle them randomly to the bottom of your deck, and they won't. And then you can just not shuffle. They go onto the bottom of your deck randomly, and then your top card will be something that could be useful or not. But yeah, I'd say fairly useful. But since it's a two, how Pack Piper is a 2/2, it can die fairly easily. How Pack Piper, almost $10. Yeah, I'd say people would want her mainly because like she can't be countered when you're casting a Hellpack Piper, it can't be countered when it's on its front side, and then when you wait a whole turn, you can trigger her ability of 1 green to tap it, and you get to put a creature card onto the battlefield for just 2 mana. So I mean, it's fairly useful. So 982, not surprising, good price point for it because you're able to cheat cards out onto the battlefield for just 2 mana. All right, our second to last card is Ulvenwald Oddity, a 2 green creature beast 4/4 with trample haste, and then 5 green transform Ulvenwald Oddity, and it becomes Ulvenwald Behemoth creature beast horror 8/8 trample haste. Other creatures you control get +1/+1 and have trample and haste. All right. So right off the bat, I mean, it's a 4 CMC spell with just one ability when it comes in, and it's not affected by day or night. So you have to spend 7 mana to transform it, but its transform side is pretty much better, mainly because its power and toughness double, but other creatures you control get +1/+1 and have trample and haste, so your creatures won't be affected by summoning sickness, and you're able to get some damage through depending on how your opponent blocks. So I won't be surprised if it's less than $5, mainly because depending on your situation, you may not have enough mana to cast it use 7 mana to transform it, mainly because like since it's not bound by day or night, it you will have to more or less pay the mana in order to transform it. So won't be surprised if it won't be used. Olvenwald Oddity. 45. All right, so a bit closer to 5 than I was thinking. I was more towards like $3 to $4, but closer to 5. So people may use it, like probably not run a whole lot of them, mainly because like 7 CNC just to transform it. I mean, yeah, it becomes an 8/8, but you're spending 7 mana to do it when its front is 4 mana for a 4/4 with trample and haste. So you pretty much would have to bide your time with it. Hopefully, it doesn't get killed by the time you play your seventh land. Hopefully that land comes untapped. So basically, you pretty much want your seventh land to be a basic land or like one of those shock lands if you're willing to pay 2 life, depending on how far in the game you are. So I mean, almost $5, not surprising, but I won't be surprised if people are just running 1 or 2 copies of it in their decks. And then dig up. This is one spell that I was really thinking. I'm thinking people will genuinely run this card, mainly because. So first off, dig up 1 green man, pretty much green sorcery with a cleave cost of one black, black, green, and for just its normal one green cost, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. And then paying it for its cleave cost, casting it for its cleave cost is search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Literally very useful. I mean, you would pretty much want to have this in a Gruul Golgari deck, sorry, not Gruul, or any deck that runs green black, or you're able to produce black green or black mana, mainly because you would want to cast this spell for its cleave cost because you're able to literally it's a tutor. I mean, it may be a 4 CMC tutor, but it is still a form of tutoring because you're searching for a card. You do not have to reveal it. You just add it to your hand and then shuffle your library like normal. So I mean, very useful. And then this is its borderless art. I forgot to do that for some of them, but yeah, let's see. Oop, I did not copy it. Let's see where it lies. Yeah, 644. Honestly, higher than $5. Not surprising there, mainly because like people want this card as a tutor, even though like it is color specific to one black, black, green. Will be run in any green deck, mainly because like it is a one land drop, like search for a basic land and then add it to your hand. So I mean, even though it doesn't go to the battlefield, it is one mana to search for a basic land and then 4 CMC to search for a card. That is very useful if you are able to do it. So I won't be surprised if the price on it fluctuates, but 644 not bad for this kind of card. But that'll do it. So to end off, like just looking at the five primary colors, so pretty much like price wise for all, the main one is Count Dracula, which is the Sword in the Mirror list alternate art, or like not alternate, but show it's non I don't know what you would call it, but uh it is like uh not movie frame, nothing like that, but it is like sorry, I can't put it into words, but it's your exclusive art. Like it relates to the set because Dracula is pretty much vampire, drinks blood, that type of thing. So I mean, it is $70. Well, not surprised because it is very an exclusive art. And then 540 5443 for Soren the Mirthless. He is a good planeswalker. And then, so I mean, pretty much a black card as your most expensive of the set. And then blue, multicolored Olivia. I will be doing multicolored tomorrow, along with some other spells that have been released since last week, some other cards that have been released since last week. And again, I will only be doing the mythic and rares, but with this, that'll be it for today. Thank you for guys for tuning in. It's Saga Plays, and I will post a video tomorrow on multicolored, colorless mythics and rares, and any other cards that I have not covered yet. Signing out. See you guys.